On the face of it, worksheets within a workbook seem fairly static. They hold your data, charts, and other objects, but aside from renaming them or changing their tab color, it seems like you rarely change them. That might be true in normal usage, but when you write VBA code, you'll find that you change your worksheets quite often. There are two ways of referencing worksheets. The first is by position, and the second is by name. I'll switch over to the Visual Basic Editor to show you what I mean. And I'll just create a new subroutine, sub-sheet test. If I want to display a worksheet, I can do so using the activate method. So if I have worksheets, and then the name of the worksheet, call it sheet3.activate, and press F5 to run it, flip back to the workbook, and you see that sheet 3 appears. If I do the same thing for sheet 1, then sheet 1 appears. Now let's do the same thing by number. Let's say that I want to display the sheet in the second position. In this case, that would be sheet 2. So when I press F5 and flip back, you see that we're on sheet 2. A worksheet's index number, that's the number that appears here between the parentheses, represents that worksheet's position in the tab bar. So if I press Alt F11 to go back, you see that sheet 2 is in the second position. If I were to move sheet 2 to the left of sheet 1, go back, and activate sheet number 1, pressing F5, and go back, you see that sheet 2 is still active. That's because it is now in the first position. If I change it to worksheets 2, again, the index number for the second positioned worksheet, and press F5, we should see the sheet that is named sheet number 1. If you want to add a worksheet, that is, create a new worksheet, you can do so using the Sheets object add method. So if I press Alt F11 go back, and I'll just type sheets, again, sheets, not worksheets. Sheets encompass also Excel for macro worksheets and chart sheets. So sheets.add, and if I press F5, I get a new worksheet. In this case, it is named sheet 4. If we flip back to the program window, you can see that it was added. And when you use the sheets add method, Excel adds the new sheet to the left of the sheet that was active at the time you ran the command. In this case, sheet 1 was active, so the VBA routine added sheet 4 to the left. So now this is worksheet 1, worksheet 2, worksheet 3, and worksheet 4. But now let's say that I want to add a worksheet at the end of the line. In other words, I wanted to add it here to the right of what is now sheet 3. To do that, I keep sheets add and then say after :equal. This allows me to type an argument and the value assigned to that argument. So it's going after worksheets, sheets.count. Now if I press F5, Excel creates a new worksheet and it's at the end as opposed to being to the left of the worksheet that was previously active. And you can see that when I go back to the main program window. If I wanted to add a worksheet after a sheet with a particular name, then I could say, using the same command, the add method after the worksheet that is named sheet 1. When I press F5, Excel creates a new worksheet, and it's here, sheet 6, to the right of sheet 1. In other words, it was created after, in this line, sheet 1. You can rename a worksheet from inside of VBA. To do that, you type worksheets, and then the name of the worksheet, sheet 1, .name equals form. You can assign a name using a variable, but if you want to type it in directly as a string, you need to make it a literal string, and that means you need to put it in double quotation marks. Now if I run the code by pressing F5, you see here that sheet 1 has been renamed form, and if I flip back to the workbook, sheet 1 is now named form. If you want to delete a worksheet, again, that's entirely possible. You can do worksheets, and I'll delete sheet 6. Worksheets, delete. But now look what happens when I press F5 to run the code to delete the worksheet. Excel displays a dialog box indicating that the sheet may have data and asking if I want to delete it. When you're running VBA code, in general, you want to bypass all of these boxes. You just want things to happen. That means that you need to put in some code in your subroutine to bypass this message. I'll show you how to do that. First, I'll click Cancel so that we don't delete the worksheet yet. To turn off dialog boxes, or confirmation boxes as some people call them, type application.display alerts equals false. So now when I run it, Excel simply deletes the sheet. You can see that it disappeared from here. And also when I go back to the main body of the workbook, it's no longer on the tab bar. In general, if you run code that includes an application.displayAlerts equals false, then you should reset it to true when you're done. So application.displayAlerts equals true. I won't run the code because sheet 6 isn't in the workbook anymore, and it would just generate an error, but that is how you bypass that particular problem. The Excel object model has built-in programming hooks you can use to create worksheets, rename worksheets, and delete any worksheets you don't need. Just remember that deleting a worksheet is irreversible. Once it's gone forever.